Do you feel like you aren't getting a good return on your investment? Tired of losing to lower GP accounts? Tired of your Relic 8s losing to Gear 12? Feel like the fun is being sapped from your life? Introducing Relic Deltas, your one stop shop for fun. Forget those angry nights after an unfair loss. This is where your characters can shine. Relic Deltas, the place where your R9 Ray can say, no thank you, to that Gear 12 Malicos. Yo, what up, guys? It's Berm. I just wanted to make a quick video about this Relic Delta stuff. I know a lot of content creators have been making videos about this. CG has put out an official announcement discussing it, discussing why they did it, discussing why they didn't go with the other options. So today we're going to go over it a little bit as well, and possibly not quite as detailed, maybe more detailed. I'm not sure, but essentially we're just going to read through it just like everybody else did real quick. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. We've already had a few people do that, but I do want to go over some of the key points associated with this. So here we've got the why Relic Delta. Heads up, this is pretty long, which is why we're not going to read the whole thing, by the way. We've heard the concerns about splitting focus between increasing relic levels on older characters to account for Relic Delta, while still wanting to pursue newer characters. With our upcoming release, we will be changing how players get and invest in new characters. More details to come on that later, but the relevant portion for Relic Delta is this. You will be progressing through gear tiers and lower relic levels without needing to use gear or relic materials, which frees up those resources to be spent on older characters. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but we'll see. Additionally, droid brains and higher level signal data will be added as outputs from Scavenger, giving players an alternate means of acquiring those materials. Lastly, the playtest is still going on, and we're continuing to gather feedback from the testers and the community. We simply wanted to provide the context that folks have been requesting. So, let's get into it. And here we go with the basics. Vertical progression. Games with progression fall into two main categories: horizontal progression and vertical progression. Horizontal progression, as a primary vector, power does not increase. Rather, over time, you gain additional tools in your tool belt to solve the same sorts of problems at similar power levels. Vertical progression, as a primary vector, power increases with new releases. This doesn't have to be a rapid increase, and the team has done an excellent job of taking measured and calculated steps when it comes to power increases. This power increase can come from new equipment, stats, new kits, abilities, new systems, and stuff like that. Both types need new game content, at least in the context of live service game. That's correct, because we're playing a game that's constantly evolving, that you log into all the time. If they're not consistently adding things to the game, then we don't have new things to do in the game. The game grows stagnant, the game dies, because people are tired of doing the same thing every single day, right? The problem is scalability. We try to make systems as scalable as possible. If you can build your system in a way that adapts to or accounts for changes to the game that you don't yet know are coming, you've built a robust and scalable system. Let's see. However, then they talk about they went from gears to relics, and how they had such a hard time with their bucket of stats and adding multiple gear levels and stuff like that. So then they introduced a relic level so they could get rid of those little pieces of gear, right? Because each piece of gear adds stats to your character and possibly different stats, and now they have to balance what pieces go to what character and that sort of thing. However, relics haven't seen a new level of progression for 4 years. That's a long time. This is due to two aspects. There's nothing to absorb, showcase, and reward that power increase. And there was minimal to no reason to push for higher progression. That's true, right? I mean, there's nothing in the game that you need to use like a Relic 10 for instance. Everything in TB stops at Relic 9. Maybe GAC would benefit from that as well. I mean, it's probably the only system that would. But other than that, there's nothing else that says, hey, we need to be Relic 10. So at the same time, they are still, as we'll see later on, introducing Relic 10 into the game, right? So what essentially is going to happen is that they're going to introduce Relic 10, and then they're also going to have to add some stuff into the game at the same time. So that was going to happen no matter what, and the content is going to get added to the game to support the Relic 10. I don't think that's the core problem of what they're trying to solve with the Relic Delta stuff, right? Essentially, they're trying to make the game scalable in the sense of you're getting a return on your investment for your stuff. Down here they say, yeah, we've heard from the community that players don't think R9 is worth investing outside of requirements. I hear that all the time. People say that in chat. People are talking about that on streams and that sort of thing. Why would we R9 this character? Really, only tanks and requirements are the ones getting the R9s, which is why the R9s get added as requirements, because it forces players to now delve into that content that has been added to the game. Otherwise, people just don't do it. The majority of people don't do it, I should say. A lot of people still do it, but only if it's required. How does an increase in stats on R9 help players below R9? We have to look at the long-term future of relics, not just the levels that players currently own. Okay, in the end, the problem is far bigger than protect higher relic investment. I think that is part of the problem, though, is they are trying to protect your investment, as we'll see as well. They mentioned specifically that a Gear 12 shouldn't be able to take out a R8 later on. Obviously, if they don't do anything, the game just stays exactly how it is right now. They keep adding marquees, and that's the only new content that we're getting in the game. We're not getting much of anything else if that's all they do. Change relic stats on existing relic levels. Okay. The value that players receive from the prior investment and upcoming investment goals change. Some characters probably come out winners, but many would certainly be losers. Different characters are impacted to differing degrees, which results in a fractured solution rather than a solidified one. The meta still shifts, potentially drastically, even if mastery constituent stats are touched. Relic levels beyond 9 aren't directly supported, and this doesn't address the core problem of scalability. I agree. If you add R10, there's no new content to support it. Well, I mean, that's easily solved. You add R10, but then you also add the content for the R10. Maybe add some stuff to the TBs. Of course, I know that's a big change, but then also the assault battles can get R10 stuff added as well, possibly. That sort of thing. Add the damage increase, decrease on the top few relics. I do agree with this. This is honestly the closest these possible solutions came to solving the problem before Relic Delta was chosen. Unfortunately, this does nothing to help players below R7, and I completely agree with that, right? Also, I noticed it was mentioned in another video that what that essentially does is it makes it so that if you're below R7, right, you don't get hit with that damage increase, decrease. Or maybe it's something of that nature, right? So it's like, how do you manage that? So yeah, I mean, that's just kind of a hard system, and again, it's not very scalable, and it doesn't address all the problems. It's only saying, hey, R7 and above, now there's an increase, decrease, whereas all the other relic levels are fine. So it still doesn't address the overarching problem. Chosen solution. Relic Delta was conceived about a year ago at this point. The basis of and inspiration for the system actually comes from within our own game. 10 years ago, the game launched with a level Delta system whereby attacks would experience modified crit chance, accuracy and evasion, damage, and resistance chance based on difference between the attacker's and defender's character levels. Only crit chance and resistance chance have any values. So, only those two were ever in play. Recognizing that most vertical progression live service games have some kind of delta system to facilitate conquering old content and not pushing too far ahead on higher level content, we decided to update relics to use a similar system. A level delta system is used so broadly because it is incredibly scalable. While players are leveling and working towards max progression, the delta sticks with them and applies equally to their experience regardless of where they're at in the progression curve. For all players at all relic levels, it speeds up and or simplifies older content. I agree with that, yes. It protects newer content and investments made to engage with that content. Okay, I could see that. It supports a distinction in power level in PvP. It most certainly does. It most certainly does. The higher your relics, the easier the PvP is going to be for you. It rewards those who have made the climb. It promises that your investment of time and resources will be rewarded. So earlier they said that it's not simply about your ROI, right? Your return on investment. However, they are not saying that that's not important. So this kind of does go back to, if you put time and effort into getting your R7s, R8s, R9s, that sort of thing, you're not going to be losing to these teams where people didn't really put anything into them. And the reason they win is because of their kit, right? Their kit should help them win, but not at the expense of people losing with characters and teams that they put a lot of their investment into. And then you come in and you just beat it with a gear 10, gear 11, gear 12, stuff like that, you know? And so they're trying to protect people's return on investment in that regards. Whether or not you agree or disagree with that, that's what it looks like is happening. We've heard the concern around Relic Delta eliminating strategy. So it will eliminate strategy a little bit, right? Like, because some of those counters aren't going to work at lower gears. You're just going to have to invest into those teams more, and then those counters will, in fact, work again. Depending on the Relic Delta percentage, you could still do it at lower tiers than the relic level of the team you're going against, but only to a certain degree, because once you get so many relics away, you're still going to experience too much of a damage decrease in order for it to work. Kick in later. Yeah, I remember them going over this. I remember reading this. So essentially, Relic Delta doesn't take effect until you're at R7 or R9. It does. I agree with this. This introduces inconsistency in how the system is applied. Messaging for a system that suddenly turns on after you've crossed the threshold is difficult. Additionally, how do you say R9 has Relic Delta active and not have that apply to R3 when they're battling each other? I agree. A delta implies two different values. It requires the context of the other side, at which point the lower relic is inherently involved in the system and affected by it. Why shouldn't lower invested units also benefit from having a higher relic level than units below them? When adding new relic levels, should the threshold move up or stay the same? Again, scalability and the ability for being implemented equally throughout the system and not just at higher relics. I was looking for mine specifically. Here it is. We've heard the concern around Relic Delta eliminating strategy. Oh, I just stopped reading. We fully intend for strategy to continue to be a central aspect of both PvP and PvE content. This is actually going to help PvE content for the most part based on how the relic system works within their PvE environment. Because we're looking, a lot of characters don't even have relics. They're like relic 0. So if you have relic characters, you're just going to walk through the content. Relic Delta eliminates some cases, e.g. G12 Malakos beating R8 Ray. Yep, my example. But it also introduces some strategy around which characters to invest in by how much based on your usage of them and their place in the larger meta, which is already kind of what we do. You're just going to have to take them a little bit higher if you want to be able to use those counters. For instance, like my Gear 12 Malakos, if I want to do that counter, I'm going to have to actually relic my Malakos, bring up my Star Killer a little bit, bring up my Malakos a little bit, and now that strategy will probably still work. It's just going to have to be slightly higher in relics. With these changes, Relic 10 is being added to the game, though please see above as to why it doesn't solve the core problem, which we just discussed, right? It will use a new signal data, which will not be farmed with energy, so it doesn't disrupt your current signal data farming. Hey, that's cool or not cool. I guess we'll have to see how that it's implemented. Instead, the new signal data will be available in both the scavenger and other game modes. Okay, so you can scavenge it, other game modes. I guess it depends on what you need for scavenging in order to get it, because some of the relic things are kind of hard. Like they're expensive, right? Because you have to, the mats used to scavenge them are some ones that are kind of difficult to get. Finally, there will be a new game mode, new events, and an update to era-related journey guide events, ensuring that all players get to use new characters right away for valuable rewards. We want all players to be able to enjoy the latest characters and content being released to the game. So, I mean, that's very accurate about what they've been doing anyways with this marquee and allowing people to get the characters easier. They've updated the system so that you can level characters faster. They want people to be able to play catch up. They want new players to get into the game and be able to enjoy the game. Is what it seems like from the updates before this one, right? Is it seems like more of a system evenly spread out, but also rewarding people for putting time and effort into the game, and also money into the game, obviously, and giving you a return on your investment for the things that you've been putting into it. If you guys could just drop some comments below, tell me what you think about it. Yeah, and I'll be around the Discords, obviously. And also, if you want to catch the stream, you know where to find me. I'll catch you guys next time.